Hey guys, this is Nick Love with Love Racing doing another hot lap video. In this tutorial, we're going to begin by reviewing a full speed lap, then go through a turn-by-turn breakdown, timestamped in the description below. Now let's watch as we approach the last corner and prepare for our next lap of the Circuit of the Americas. Here at COTA, it's extremely difficult to avoid the one-times penalties on exit to a lot of these turns. You just want to make sure you keep two tires on the racing surface at all times, and usually you can avoid most of those. On the front straight on the approach to turn 1, you have a decision where you can either stay in 4th gear, ride the limiter, or shift into 5th. The red and white bumpers both on the inside and outside of the track are pretty friendly here. Most of the corners will have a yellow apex marker. Those are pretty tall and you're going to not want to hit those. This track is pretty wide and it was designed for a lot faster cars. In the Miata you don't have to use all the track and track out completely on a lot of these turns. This sector of turns 6 through 9, you gotta be really patient here. Try not to get on throttle too early. You want to make sure you set yourself up for the next turn. If you take the correct line through this corner, once you get on throttle, you can stay on throttle throughout this. The back end gets a little loose, so you might need to counter steer a bit. Here we're headed towards turn 11, the most important corner on the track, as it leads to the longest straight. You can see here that he overshot the braking zone a little bit and pushed wide. You can lose almost a second here on your lap by making that mistake. This back straight gives you a lot of time to set up your tire options or your fuel for your pit stops. Here you're headed for turn 12, which is going to be the biggest braking zone of the track. It's also more than 90 degrees, so be patient about when you get back on throttle. You can see coming into turn 13 that some of these turns don't have any braking markers on the fence, so it's kind of hard to find some landmarks. In the breakdown lap, we'll go over some of the other landmarks you can use and how to estimate where to brake. Patient here for turn 15. You can use quite a bit of the bumper on the left. The key to turn 17 and 18 is just try to minimize that steering angle. This way you can scrub less speed. Think of this complex like a single turn and focus on the exit to turn 18. On a fresh set of tires or a cold track, 4th gear is going to be your fastest through this corner. Once you start to get a little bit of tire wear or the temps are higher, I would go to 3rd. Here we're coming up to turn 20. This is the second most important corner on the track due to the second longest straight. This is another one of those corners where you can either go in 2nd or 3rd depending on the condition of the track and the tires. Okay, now we're passing start-finish and we will start the turn-by-turn breakdown. I prefer to stay in 4th here going up the hill. You can ride the limiter just a little bit. It's one less downshift to make and it makes this complex a lot easier. So your braking marker for turn 1 will be this white line. If you're in 5th, you're probably going to want to brake right when you see that white line. If you're in 4th, you can push that a little bit closer. Ideally here, you're going to want to be down into 2nd gear before you turn in, right around the top of the hill, and give it some trail braking to get the car rotated. Remember, this is greater than 90-degree turn, so don't get back on throttle too early. You can use all the red and white bumper here. Use the yellow apex marker as your reference point to getting back on throttle. Quickly track left to prepare for turn 2. You can stay flat here in 4th. Make sure you don't track all the way out to the left. You don't need to. You're not carrying enough speed. You can stay flat here through turn 3. You're going to want to use your turn-in point right before you get to this bridge. Try to make sure you get in a straight line between 3 and 4 so you can brake before you turn in. You can begin your braking point right before you get to the end of this bumper. Stay in 4th gear here. You can see the main reason why you don't want to hit those yellow apex markers. For turn 4, you just want to late apex that right past that yellow apex marker and get back on throttle. Turns 3 through 9 are a combination of switchbacks here. You have to be really patient and try not to get on throttle too early, or else you end up in a bad position for the start of the next turn. Stay in 4th through this whole section. Try to slow down just a little bit between turns 4 and 5 before you turn in. An early apex here in turn 6 isn't going to hurt you too much, but try to use those yellow apex markers to give you an idea where to be on track. Try to stay about mid-track when you track out here. You can see in this lap that since it's tracked all the way out, it makes this entrance very difficult. I think turn 8 here at COTA is one of the most difficult turns of this track. It's certainly the one I have the most trouble with. Since it's a blind exit, you have a tendency to try to turn in and hug the inside early. What you actually want to do is kind of dual apex this. So you want to enter about mid-track and downshift into third before entry. If you're patient here and don't get back on throttle until you're right at the apex, you're able to stay on throttle throughout this next section and carry quite a bit more speed. Apex right at the yellow marker here and stay on throttle. Go ahead and use all of the bumper on the left side of the track here for turn 10. You want to try and reduce the distance traveled. Begin your braking for turn 11 right around the 100 marker. You can see a line just to the right of the track that shows where this marker is as well. Go ahead and shift all the way down to second gear. There's not a great turn-in landmark here. Just keep your eyes up, focus on that apex, and make sure you don't get on throttle until you get there. Okay, back on throttle right at the apex, and then slowly unwind your steering wheel to track right. Coming up to turn 12, you'll see some braking markers on the right on the fence. They're a little hard to read at speed, so keep an eye on them. You're going to want to start getting on the brakes halfway between the 150 and the 100 marker. And remember that this turn is greater than 90 degrees, and slightly downhill, so it's a little difficult to pinpoint how much speed you need to carry. Due to turn 12 having such a tight angle, it really helps to trail brake gear on entry to get the car rotated. I like to start turning in right around the top of second gear. You want to position the car exactly as shown here. Get back on throttle right at the apex and track out. Since there's no braking markers on the fence here, I like to use the track surface as an indicator of when I should be on the brakes. If you look for the more rubberized section, which is darker, go ahead and stay in third here. Get back on throttle at or near the apex. One thing to note here is not to track all the way out. Stay about mid to 3/4 track left. Keep a consistent steering angle here and treat this whole complex as one turn. You need to plan ahead here for turn 15. If you track all the way out left, you're in a really bad position for the entry to 15. So track out to about mid-track to 3/4 track to the left, and then get back over to the right as soon as possible. For turn 15, you can use the corner of the bumper on the left here to give you an idea of when to start braking. You want to head nearly in a straight line towards this pole until you get almost to the edge of the track, then you'll turn in. Turn 15 is a deceptively tight turn. You'll see a lot of cars that carry a little bit too much speed here and overshoot into the runoff. You can get black flagged here if you use too much of that runoff as well, so make sure you're patient. You can really treat turns 16 through 18 as one corner here. One of the most common mistakes I see is that people turn in early and try to apex 16. What ends up happening is you have to turn the steering wheel a lot more if you do that, and you scrub a lot of speed on exit. What you want to do is stay about mid-track and then clip the apexes for both 17 and 18. Try to keep a nice consistent steering angle as well. Stay flat, and here's the first apex you want to clip at 17. You can see on this lap there's still quite a bit of a gap here between the apex at turn 18. As you practice, try to pull that in. Right after the exit, make sure you track right and prepare for turn 19. There's a small line on the left side of the track. It's kind of difficult to see. It's the only real landmark I've found here that you can use. I like to brake a little bit after that. For turn 19, you can actually carry quite a bit more speed than you'd think. It's cold and you have fresh tires. You can stay in fourth here. That's the fast line. But if you're still new and you're still learning, I downshift into third, and that kind of controls your speed there. You can use the end of the grass here as a good turn-in point reference. Try to pull the car in here. You want to get 2 tires on that red and white bumper and get back on throttle right at the apex. Or you can track out here. As long as you keep 2 wheels on a racing surface, you won't get a 1-times. For turn 20, I like to be halfway in between this little asphalt patch and this white line and brake in between those. Turn 20 on a cool track or on fresh tires, you can stay in third here and carry a bit more speed. If it's hotter or if your tires are worn, go back down in second. The yellow apex marker here, it's one of the smaller ones. You can run over that without getting the 1-times. Keep your eyes up here and make sure you don't run off track on exit. To give you an idea of what lap times to expect with the new tire model here, with fresh tires and a low temperature like right now, you'd expect the top guys to be in the 39s, but low 40s would still be competitive. That's it for this tutorial of COTA in the 2010 Mazda Miata Cup Car. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video and you love racing, let us know and comment below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button to catch the latest, and stay tuned for the next episode of Hot Laps with Love Racing. Lastly, I just want to give a shout out to the Love Racing team, Sean Saputra, Charles Kowalczyk, and Jacob Hiller. Thanks, guys.